The stage lights blazed hot against Elliot Grange's face as he walked across the polished floor of the San Francisco Convention Center. Thunderous applause erupted from the live audience, tech executives, investors, and journalists who'd flown in from around the world for this moment. The billionaire founder of Ethos Labs rarely granted interviews, and never this publicly. Tonight was different. Elliot adjusted his navy blazer and forced a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. At 42, he still carried the lean intensity of someone who'd clawed his way out of foster care to build a tech empire worth $30 billion. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. But something felt wrong. His usual confidence wavered as he shook hands with Nadia Reyes, the veteran investigative journalist whose reputation for exposing corporate lies preceded her like a warning. "Welcome to Tech Summit Live," Nadia said, her voice warm but sharp. "Elliot, thank you for joining us. I know this isn't your usual comfort zone." The audience laughed. Elliot's smile tightened. "Happy to be here, Nadia. Though I have to admit, your reputation makes me nervous." Backstage, Jordan Lee, Elliot's closest friend and chief communications officer, watched the monitors with growing unease. He'd spent weeks negotiating the terms of this interview, securing promises that certain topics would remain off-limits. But Nadia's reputation for ignoring such boundaries gnawed at him. His phone buzzed with texts from the production team. "How far can she push? Let's start with something everyone wants to know," Nadia continued, settling into her chair across from Elliot. "You've built Ethos Labs around the promise of data privacy, protecting people from corporate surveillance. Yet you remain one of the most private public figures in tech. What drives that contradiction?" Elliot's rehearsed answer rolled out smoothly. "Privacy isn't about hiding, Nadia. It's about choice. I choose to let my work speak for itself." But Nadia wasn't satisfied with surface-level responses. Her dark eyes studied his face, cataloging micro-expressions, the slight tension in his jaw. She'd interviewed dictators and drug lords. She knew when someone was performing. "That's beautifully said," she replied, her tone shifting subtly. "But I'm curious about the human behind the empire. You've revised your origin story several times over the years. In 2020, you said your foster care experience taught you resilience. In 2022, you called it trauma that drives your mission. Which version is true?" The question landed like a precise surgical cut. Elliot's composure flickered for just a moment, a micro-expression that millions of viewers worldwide caught on their screens. The live-stream chat exploded with speculation. "He looks uncomfortable. Something's off. This is getting good." Jordan's hands tightened around his phone. The producers had promised a, quote, human conversation. But this felt like an interrogation beginning. He watched Elliot deflect with practiced charm, but even his best friend could see the cracks forming. "All stories evolve, Nadia," Elliot said, his voice carrying a hint of edge. "Growth means understanding your past differently." Nadia leaned forward slightly, a predator sensing weakness. "Evolution is beautiful, but inconsistency? That's something different entirely." The stage fell silent except for the hum of cameras. 50 million viewers held their breath. This wasn't going to be the puff piece anyone expected. Nadia opened a sleek tablet and scrolled through her notes with deliberate slowness. The pause stretched uncomfortably long, a technique she'd perfected over 2 decades of breaking down carefully constructed facades. When she looked up, her expression had shifted from curiosity to something sharper. "Let's talk about your mentor, Dr. Marcus Chen," she said, watching Elliot's reaction carefully. 5 years ago, you called him your North Star, the professor who believed in you when no one else would. But last month, Dr. Chen published an op-ed calling you a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition. What changed? Elliot's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The practiced smile never wavered, but his eyes hardened. Marcus is entitled to his opinion. Success changes relationships. Not everyone celebrates your growth. "Growth," Nadia repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Interesting choice, because in that 2020 interview with Tech Weekly, you said your company's mission came from watching your foster siblings struggle with identity theft. But Dr. Chen claims you never mentioned foster care during your 3 years in his program. In fact, he says you frequently talked about your comfortable middle-class upbringing." The live stream chat erupted. Receipts flooded the comments. She came prepared. This is brutal. Backstage, Jordan felt his stomach drop. He grabbed his phone and frantically typed to the production team. We need to redirect now. This wasn't agreed upon. The response came back immediately. Ratings are through the roof. She stays on topic. On stage, Elliot leaned back in his chair, a gesture meant to appear relaxed, but coming across as defensive. Memory is subjective, Nadia. Trauma affects how we process and share our experiences. I've been more open about my past as I've healed. Trauma. Nadia nodded thoughtfully. You've certainly become the poster child for overcoming adversity. But here's what puzzles me. Your story keeps getting more dramatic with each telling. First it was group homes, then foster care, then aging out of the system at 18. Meanwhile, public records show you graduated from Phillips Exeter Academy. How do we reconcile that? The question hit like a physical blow. For the first time, Elliot's composure cracked visibly. His hand moved to his collar, tugging slightly. A nervous tick Jordan recognized from their college days. Public records can be misleading, Elliot said, his voice carrying an edge of irritation. And frankly, I don't appreciate having my personal trauma questioned for entertainment. Nadia's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained steady. This isn't entertainment, Elliot. It's accountability. Your story has inspired millions of people facing real hardship. Don't they deserve the truth? The cameras caught every micro-expression as Elliot struggled to maintain control. 50 million viewers sensed blood in the water. But Nadia wasn't finished. She glanced at her notes again, and when she looked up, her expression had shifted to something that made Jordan's blood run cold. Speaking of truth, she said quietly, let's talk about Eva Tran. Elliot's face went white. The silence stretched for 5 agonizing seconds. In the age of viral moments, 5 seconds was an eternity. Elliot's face cycled through emotions. Recognition, fear, calculation, before settling into a mask of practiced confusion. I'm sorry, who? He asked, but his voice betrayed him with the slightest tremor. Nadia leaned forward, her journalist instincts fully engaged. She'd hit something big. Eva Tran, former data engineer at Ethos Labs. Ring any bells? The live stream chat exploded into chaos. Who is Eva Tran? Google her now. Search results coming up empty. This is getting insane. Backstage, Jordan felt the world tilt. He knew exactly who Eva Tran was, the brilliant engineer who'd discovered the privacy breaches 3 years ago, the woman whose career they'd systematically destroyed to protect the company. The ghost Jordan thought they'd buried forever. We employ thousands of people, Elliot said, attempting to regain control. I can't be expected to remember every former employee. Every former employee? Nadia's eyebrows rose. That's interesting, because Eva didn't just work for you. She reported directly to your inner circle. She was the one who flagged major privacy violations in your core systems. The same systems you've spent years telling the world were unhackable. Elliot's hand moved to his water glass, gripping it tighter than necessary. We take all internal concerns seriously, but I won't comment on personnel matters or unsubstantiated allegations. Unsubstantiated, Nadia repeated, savoring the word. So you do remember her. The trap had sprung perfectly. Elliot realized his mistake immediately. You can't call allegations unsubstantiated if you don't know who made them. His media training kicked in, but it was too late. Look, Nadia, he said, leaning forward with forced sincerity. Tech companies face constant scrutiny. Disgruntled employees sometimes make claims that don't hold up under investigation. We have robust processes. Robust processes, Nadia interrupted. Like having security escort her out of the building? Like freezing her stock options? Like ensuring she couldn't find work anywhere in Silicon Valley? The audience in the convention center had gone dead silent. This wasn't the inspirational tech leader interview they'd expected. This was a public execution, and they were witnessing something that would be dissected on social media for weeks. Jordan frantically typed on his phone, "Cut the feed now. This is beyond salvage." The response came back. Are you insane? This is television gold. 73 million viewers and climbing. On stage, Elliot's composure was cracking in real time. I won't be ambushed with conspiracy theories and character assassination, he said, his voice rising slightly. Ambushed? Nadia's voice remained calm, almost gentle. "Elliot, I sent your team a full list of topics we'd be covering. Ava Tran was on that list." Jordan's phone buzzed with the proof, an email thread from 2 weeks ago. His blood turned to ice as he realized the truth. He'd seen Ava's name on the list and deliberately hadn't told Elliot. He'd gambled that Nadia wouldn't actually bring her up. He'd been catastrophically wrong. Nadia continued, "In fact, I have something I'd like you to see." A statement Ava recorded specifically for tonight. The massive screens flanking the stage flickered to life. Elliot's face appeared briefly in the corner, pale, trapped, his eyes darting toward the exits. Then the feed cut to a woman in her early 30s, sitting in what appeared to be a nondescript hotel room. Her face was partially obscured by shadows, but her voice was crystal clear. "My name is Ava Tran," she began, her words measured and deliberate. "3 years ago, I was a senior data engineer at Ethos Labs. I believed in the mission, protecting people's privacy in an age of digital surveillance. I believed in Elliot Grange." The convention center had become a tomb. 75 million viewers worldwide held their breath. Even the production crew behind the cameras had stopped moving. Ava's voice continued, steady but weighted with pain. "In March 2022, I discovered that our core privacy systems had been compromised for over 18 months. User data wasn't just being collected, it was being packaged and sold to third-party brokers. The same data we promised to protect." Elliot's jaw clenched so hard that cameras caught the muscle twitching. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair like anchors in a storm. "I followed protocol," Ava said, her image flickering slightly on the screens. "I reported it to my supervisor, then to the ethics board, then directly to senior leadership. I documented everything. I had emails, code samples, transaction logs. I thought they'd want to fix it immediately." A bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Instead, they wanted to fix me." The live stream chat had evolved beyond chaos into something approaching religious fervor. "Holy shit. This is Watergate level. Elliot's finished. Save the recording before it disappears." Backstage, Jordan slumped against a wall, his face in his hands. He remembered those meetings. The long nights spent crafting legal strategies to discredit Ava, the carefully orchestrated campaign to question her mental stability, the NDAs designed to silence her forever. On screen, Ava's voice grew stronger. "Within a week, I was placed on administrative leave. They claimed I was struggling with personal issues and needed, quote, professional help. They froze my stock options, revoked my access, and began spreading rumors that I was unstable." She leaned forward, her eyes finding the camera lens with laser focus. "But the worst part wasn't losing my job. It was watching Elliot Grange go on television, month after month, talking about privacy as a human right. Talking about protecting vulnerable people, all while knowing that his company was trafficking in the digital lives of millions." Elliot's composure finally cracked visibly. His breathing became shallow, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. He looked like a man watching his empire crumble in real time. Ava's final words hit like a sledgehammer. "We were supposed to protect people, Elliot. Instead, you turned their trust into profit margins. And when I tried to stop it, you destroyed my life to protect your lie." The screen went black. The silence was deafening. Nadia turned to Elliot, her voice gentle but relentless. "Would you like to respond?" Elliot's mouth opened and closed twice before any words emerged. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the mechanical cadence of someone reciting from a legal brief. "I don't comment on ongoing internal matters or personnel disputes," he said, the words sounding hollow in the vast space. "What you've just shown represents one side of a complex situation involving proprietary technology and confidential business practices." The audience stirred restlessly. After Ava's raw honesty, Elliot's corporate speak felt like an insult to their intelligence. Nadia wasn't buying it either. She opened her tablet again, swiping with deliberate precision. "Complex situation. That's one way to put it. But what about these?" She gestured to the screens, which now displayed a series of email screenshots. "Internal communications from your legal team," dated 3 days after Ava's first report. The emails were damning. Subject lines like containment strategy, AT situation, and neutralizing the whistleblower narrative filled the screens. Elliot's own name appeared in several CC fields. These show a coordinated campaign to discredit Ava personally rather than address her technical findings. Nadia continued. Your head of security recommended, quote, psychological evaluation requirements and, quote, reputation management. Your legal team suggested investigating her personal relationships for leverage opportunities. Elliot's face flushed red. Those documents are privileged attorney-client communications. How you obtained them? The how doesn't matter, Nadia interrupted sharply. The what does. Did you or did you not order your team to destroy Ava Tran's credibility instead of investigating her claims? The livestream counter hit 85 million viewers. Social media had exploded beyond containment. #Ava was right was trending globally. Stock futures for Ethos Labs were in freefall. Backstage, Jordan watched his phone buzz incessantly with calls from board members, investors, and crisis management firms. But he couldn't move. He was paralyzed watching his best friend, the man he'd helped build an empire, disintegrate on live television. On stage, something fundamental shifted in Elliot's demeanor. The corporate mask finally slipped completely, replaced by raw defensiveness. You want to talk about destroying lives? He snapped, leaning forward aggressively. What about what you're doing right now? I built Ethos Labs from nothing. I've created jobs for thousands of people, revolutionized data security, donated hundreds of millions to charity, and you're trying to tear it all down based on the word of one disgruntled employee who couldn't handle the pressure of working at an innovative company. The words tumbled out faster now, his composure completely abandoned. You sit there in your ivory tower of journalism, passing judgment, but you've never built anything. You've never had to make the impossible choices that come with real responsibility. Sometimes protecting the bigger mission means making hard decisions about individuals who threaten it. Nadia's eyebrows rose. So you admit it. You made hard decisions about Ava. Elliot realized his mistake immediately. His face went pale again as he understood he'd just confessed on live television to exactly what Ava accused him of. That's not what I meant, he stammered. But the damage was done. Nadia leaned back, her expression almost pitying. Elliot, I think we both know exactly what you meant. Elliot's breathing became visible. Shallow, rapid inhales that the sensitive stage microphones picked up and amplified across the airwaves. 88 million people watched a billionaire having what appeared to be a panic attack in real time. You don't understand, he said, his voice cracking. You people with your perfect moral clarity, you have no idea what it's like to build something from nothing. I was 13 years old, bouncing between foster homes, eating from garbage cans because my placements fell through. I swore I'd never be powerless again. The audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the polished CEO they'd come to see. This was something raw and broken spilling out under pressure. Nadia's expression remained steady, but her voice carried a note of genuine curiosity. And that justifies silencing someone who was trying to protect your users? Protect them? Elliot's voice rose to near shouting. I've protected millions of people. Ethos Labs has prevented more data breaches than any company in history. We've revolutionized digital privacy. But you want to destroy all of that because one engineer couldn't handle the complexity of running a real business? His hands were shaking now, gesturing wildly. Ava Tran was a perfectionist who wanted to shut down critical systems every time she found a minor vulnerability. She would have killed user experience, destroyed customer trust, bankrupted the company. And for what? So she could feel morally superior? The live stream chat was moving too fast to read. This is insane. He's losing it completely. Someone stop this. This is painful to watch. Save the company. Fire the CEO. Nadia leaned forward slightly. Elliot, empathy doesn't erase responsibility. Your childhood trauma doesn't give you the right to traffic in other people's personal data. Something in Elliot snapped at the word trauma. His face contorted with rage. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me, he screamed, spittle flying. You want to talk about trauma? I'll give you trauma. I was beaten in 3 different homes. I aged out of the system with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through community college while sleeping in my car. I built this empire with my bare hands while people like you sat in journalism school learning how to tear down the people who actually changed the world. The convention center was dead silent except for his ragged breathing. Even the camera operators seemed frozen. Nadia's voice, when it came, was almost gentle, And somewhere along the way, you became exactly the kind of person who would have failed that 13-year-old boy. The words hit Elliot like a physical blow. His face crumpled, cycling rapidly through anger, hurt, and something approaching recognition. "That's not," he started, then stopped. "You don't get to." His phone buzzed on the table beside him. Without thinking, he glanced at it. The screen showed a news alert. Ethos Labs stock down 34% in after-hours trading. His empire was collapsing in real time, and 90 million people were watching it happen. He looked up at Nadia with something approaching hatred. "You planned this. This whole thing was a setup." "We're going to commercial," the floor director announced, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The red recording lights on the cameras dimmed, but the stage remained blazingly lit. Elliot ripped off his microphone with such violence that the feedback screeched across the convention center. He was on his feet before the commercial break graphic even appeared on the screens. "You son of a bitch!" he screamed at Jordan, who had rushed onto the stage. You knew she was going to ambush me with Ava, and you said nothing." Jordan's face was ashen. "Elliot, I can explain." "Explain what? That my best friend, my fucking brother, sold me out for what? A better ratings share? A book deal?" Elliot's voice cracked with betrayal. "I trusted you with everything. Everything?" The production crew tried to maintain professional distance, but several were discreetly recording with their phones. This kind of behind-the-scenes meltdown was gold in the age of viral content. "I thought she was bluffing," Jordan shot back, his own composure finally cracking. The email just said, "Employee relations. I didn't think she actually had Ava. I've been protecting you for 3 years, cleaning up your messes, spinning your lies until I don't even remember what the truth looks like anymore." Nadia stood at the edge of the stage, officially giving them privacy, but close enough to hear every word. Her journalist instincts were screaming. This wasn't just good television. This was a confession happening in real time. "Protecting me." Elliot's laugh was bitter and unhinged. "You mean protecting yourself. You're the one who recommended the psychological evaluation. You're the one who suggested we dig into her personal life. You're the one who said we needed to destroy her credibility before she destroys us." A young production assistant, barely out of college, held her phone steady as she captured the exchange. She knew she was witnessing history, the moment a tech empire imploded on live television. Jordan's voice dropped to a whisper, but the sensitive boom mics picked up every word. "Because you asked me to. You came into my office, panicked about what Ava had found, and you said, 'Make this go away, Jordan, whatever it takes.' So I made it go away. I turned a brilliant engineer into a conspiracy theorist. I destroyed an innocent woman's life because you were too much of a coward to admit your company was built on a lie." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Even the hardened camera operators looked uncomfortable. Elliot stared at his oldest friend with naked betrayal. "So this is my fault? Everything we built, everything we accomplished, that's all meaningless because of one employee who couldn't handle the real world?" "The real world?" Jordan's voice rose again. "Elliot, we sold people's medical records to insurance companies. We tracked domestic abuse victims for their stalkers. We turned privacy into a marketing slogan while running the biggest surveillance operation in corporate history. 2 minutes back from commercial," the floor director announced. Elliot looked around wildly, at the cameras, at the audience, at Jordan's guilty face, and something inside him finally broke completely. "Turn them off," he demanded. "Turn the fucking cameras off right now." The red lights on the cameras blazed back to life. 93 million viewers returned from commercial break to find Elliot slumped in his chair, his face a mask of exhausted rage. Jordan had fled the stage entirely. Nadia sat perfectly composed, as if the last 5 minutes of chaos had been a meditation retreat. "Welcome back," she said calmly. "Before the break, we were discussing accountability. Were we?" Elliot's voice was hollow, all pretense of media training abandoned. "Because I thought we were discussing character assassination." Nadia opened her tablet one more time. "Actually, we were discussing this." The screens lit up again, displaying a new piece of audio waveform. "This is from our commercial break. Your conversation with Jordan Lee was picked up by our boom microphones." Elliot's face went white. "You can't air that. That was private." "Nothing is private when you're wearing a live microphone, Elliot." Nadia's finger hovered over the play button. "Should we listen to what you and your communications director said about Ava Tran?" The audio began playing. Jordan's voice filled the convention center. I turned a brilliant engineer into a conspiracy theorist. I destroyed an innocent woman's life because you were too much of a coward to admit your company was built on a lie. The audience gasped audibly. Several people in the front row had their phones out, frantically typing. The live-stream chat exploded into chaos that the moderators had long since given up trying to control. Elliot stared at the speakers as his own voice came through. So this is my fault? Everything we built, everything we accomplished. That's all meaningless because of one employee who couldn't handle the real world? When the audio ended, the silence was deafening. Elliot looked like a man watching his own execution. This isn't journalism, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. This is a public lynching. Nadia's expression remained steady. This is accountability, Elliot. This is what happens when 30 years of corporate spin meets 5 minutes of truth. Truth? Elliot's voice cracked. You want truth? The truth is that privacy is dead. It died the moment the first person uploaded a photo to social media. Everything we do now is just damage control, trying to make the best of a surveillance state that consumers created and now pretend to hate. He was spiraling now, all filters gone. You think Eva Tran was some kind of hero? She was naive. She wanted to live in a fantasy world where perfect privacy was possible. But perfect privacy means no innovation, no personalization, no progress. So yes, we made compromises. Yes, we bent the truth. Because the alternative was watching our users get eaten alive by companies with no ethical standards at all. Nadia leaned forward. And selling medical records to insurance companies was ethical? Elliot's face contorted. You don't understand I understand perfectly. Nadia's voice cut through his deflection like a scalpel. I understand that you built an empire on lies, destroyed anyone who threatened to expose those lies, and now you're trying to convince yourself, and us, that it was all justified. Elliot stared at her for a long moment. Then, with deliberate slowness, he reached for his microphone and pulled it from his lapel. We're done here, he said, standing. And without another word, he walked off the stage. Within 30 minutes, #ElliotWalkOff was trending in 47 countries. The clip of him removing his microphone and walking away had been viewed 18 million times before he'd even left the building. Eva Tran's phone buzzed incessantly in her hotel room 3,000 miles away. She'd watched the entire interview from behind a locked door, crying through most of it. Not from sadness, but from relief. 3 years of gaslighting, 3 years of being called unstable and vindictive, and finally the world had seen the truth. Her hands shook as she typed out a statement on Twitter. I never wanted to destroy Ethos Labs. I wanted to save it. But when profit matters more than people, sometimes destruction is the only path to redemption. #I was right. The tweet received 3 million likes in the first hour. In San Francisco, Ethos Labs' emergency board meeting had been running for 6 hours straight. Stock price, down 47%. Major clients canceling contracts. Regulatory agencies announcing investigations. The company Elliot had built over 15 years was hemorrhaging credibility by the minute. Where is he? Board chair Patricia Wells demanded for the 20th time. No one knew. Elliot had vanished after leaving the convention center, his security detail reporting only that he'd dismissed them and driven away alone. Jordan Lee sat in his empty office, packing the few personal items he'd accumulated over a decade of enabling. His resignation email had been brief, effective immediately. No comment. His phone showed 47 missed calls from reporters and 3 from his therapist. On social media, the reaction was savage and swift. #TechAccountability trended alongside #PrivacyUnnotDead. Memes flooded the platforms. Elliot's panicked face, Jordan's confession audio set to dramatic music, Nadia's calm expression captioned, "When journalism meets justice." But not everyone celebrated. Tech executives privately worried about the precedent. Venture capitalists fretted about due diligence failures. Some defended Elliot as a scapegoat for industry-wide practices everyone knew about but no one discussed. Nadia finished her post-interview wrap-up with characteristic precision. Tonight wasn't about destroying a man or a company. It was about the cost of unchecked power and the courage required to speak truth to it. Eva Tran showed that courage 3 years ago. Tonight, the world finally listened. As dawn broke over Silicon Valley, Elliot Grange's empire lay in ruins. But in a hotel room across the country, a woman who'd been silenced for speaking truth finally felt heard. The real reckoning was just beginning. 3 weeks after the interview that broke the internet, Nadia Reyes sat in her home office, sifting through the avalanche of interview requests, book deal offers, and journalism awards nominations. The Elliot Grange takedown had become a case study in accountability journalism, dissected in media schools worldwide. Her laptop chimed with a new email. The sender made her pause. ElliotGrangePersonal@gmail.com. Nadia, I know you have no reason to read this, let alone believe it. I've spent 3 weeks in a cabin in Montana. No phone, no internet, just me and the wreckage of everything I thought I was. You were right. About all of it. I tell myself I was protecting jobs, driving innovation, making the hard choices. But that's just more spin, isn't it? The truth is simpler and uglier. I was protecting my ego, my story, my need to be the hero who rose from nothing. Eva Tran wasn't my enemy. She was my conscience, and I destroyed her because listening to her would have meant admitting I'd become exactly what I once fought against. A powerful man who silences inconvenient truths. I've instructed my lawyers to release Eva from all NDAs. She's free to tell her complete story. I've also established a fund, my personal assets, not company money, to compensate everyone harmed by our data practices. It won't fix what I broke, but it's a start. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm not seeking redemption in the public eye. That ship sailed when I walked off your stage. I'm writing this because someone needs to say it clearly, without lawyers or PR teams filtering the words. I was wrong. Eva was right. And you did what journalism is supposed to do. I built an empire on lies and destroyed lives to protect those lies. 3 years ago, a brilliant engineer tried to save my company's soul. Instead of listening, I destroyed hers. Maybe someone else will get it right. I didn't. Elliot Nadia read the email twice, then forwarded it to Eva with a simple message. This doesn't erase what he did to you, but maybe it's a start. 6 months later, Eva Tran launched her own privacy advocacy organization. Elliot Grange disappeared from public life entirely, his billions redirected to digital rights causes. The tech industry kept spinning, kept innovating, kept pushing boundaries. But sometimes, just sometimes, they remembered the night truth met power on live television. And power blinked first. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.